Miss McClellan.
Yes, ma'am. Hi.
Hi, I'm actually on your YouTube channel because I'm trying to get some questions,
Oh, nice.
but I didn't I don't know why it didn't really like click through my head that when you said the YouTube link is gonna be in the thing that it was gonna be our YouTube link. I don't know why. I just did not think about that. I was like,
Well,
oh,
yeah,
all
the
of us.
one Yeah, there was one that like, whatever day that was, it should like show you what at least several of the first answers are. I don't remember what day
Yeah.
it was, but whatever day we read chapter 4.
Yeah, I was just looking at it. And it's like, oh, okay. Okay.
Alyssa, James, Jenny, LeBron, Cece, Cade, Zane.
It's 11 o'clock.
Thank you, Randall. Everybody's here. Hot dog. Okie doke, folks. Let us settle. For today, we must read. So we did finish all of chapter 5 in class the other day, which was great. And if we get a move on today, we should be able to finish it as well. Or finish chapter 6. For most of the chapters, what I've done is if we have not finished it, I have just given you, like, I recorded myself reading it, but that was actually like a huge waste of my time because each chapter is available on YouTube with, a professional reading it. And so I went ahead and gave you guys a link to chapter 6 on Canvas, but we are going to try to read it together today. But FYI, chapter 7 is the longest chapter. So when we get in here on Tuesday, because we won't read again until Tuesday, we'll probably get like right to work and try to get through as much of it as we can. But I saw on YouTube that the chapter 7 video is like nearly an hour. So, maybe I'll read really quickly. We just don't have enough time to, unfortunately. I actually would love to be taking this a little bit slower than we are taking it, because I know that we're kind of breezing through the chapters and like y'all are having to read or listen a lot on your own. And that's not really how I'd love to do it. And like, hopefully with next year's class, I'll just like plan time a little bit differently, but we just don't have the time. I would love to watch the Leonardo DiCaprio one with you. But let me just take a quick look at my June lesson plans.
Isn't that movie like rated R?
Oh, no. It might be PG-13. Test.
Oh, you have this help.
Yeah, we probably will not have any time to do that. No more seniors, I can't. Isaiah's gonna be gone. I know. 20 days until school is over. It's actually 20 and a half, but.
Mr. Gray counts it. Like whether or not there's like Wednesdays or not.
Oh.
There's like 15 and a half.
Okay. That's a little more doable. It's just, I posted a thing on my Instagram story yesterday because I was just like, I'm so happy for all of my teacher friends who are like, oh, only 7 days left, only 8 days left. I was like, I have 21 and a half. So yeah. What? Yeah. Oh my God. That is wild. It's May 20th.
Riley already got out for college. Colleges are out.
A little different.
Yeah.
Like, just the whole schedule is different. And honestly, it just sucks because we didn't start until September 8th. So we have to go later, but we're starting at a normal time next year. So our summer is really only like a month and a half, unfortunately. Yeah, it sucks. And I mean, with that little time, Miss Kathy and I were just talking yesterday about how like we feel like every day of our summer is doing something, like it's already taken up. We don't have tons of just like me time. I was like, I wish I hadn't been so critical during quarantine and been like, oh, this is the never ending summer. But little did we know. Okay, did I take attendance? I did.
I mean, this summer we're definitely not going to take advantage of it like we did with like last summer.
No, definitely not.
But it does mean there's probably going to be a spike in COVID. So
Yeah,
hopefully not the vaccine.
that's what I'm hoping. I saw a thing that said for the first time since COVID started, every state, their rate is dropping. So that's good news.
What's the bad news?
There's a new strain in India. That's a bad news, and it's very ridiculous. They had to close down the
Right.
borders.
Right,
Zane, what did
now
you
that
say?
sequel.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh man, 40 plus. Yeah, that's a tough, and like a lot of high schoolers are not vaccinated yet.
I'm halfway vaccinated.
Half back.
Gotta get my other one soon.
Speaking of vaccinated, a lot of people doing some research on it. Some people are trying to discourage others, say, like, "Oh, you should get vaccinated no matter what." I'm like, can I do some research on it before I get vaccinated?
Yes, you can, but like, what would you be looking for?
Side effects, what it's good for, where it came from, stuff like that.
I just unplugged myself. Yeah, I feel like all that. Yeah, I feel like all that information is
Yeah,
so
I'm
readily
sure if you
available.
like looked up like the either Moderna or the Johnson Johnson or Pfizer or the other ones, I'm sure like if you looked it up, it'll be on the front page of Google, like all the
Yeah.
answers that you need.
It's
Yeah,
so
and
easy.
like genuinely the side effects, like I'm here to tell you, it treats everybody different. Like I had a little bit of a fever, but I felt fine. Stover was like walking around like a zombie the other day.
I thought I was gonna have a fever and I didn't end up having one. So
She what? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I've heard some people say if you take either like Tylenol or like an antihistamine before, that it could lower any reaction you have. But I've heard some people say don't do that because if you actually have a reaction to it, then it could suppress that, and they need to know, like if you have an allergic reaction, you don't want to suppress it. You need, like, they need to know immediately that you're having an allergic reaction.
well,
But
also
so few people are
that
having an allergic reaction.
that also makes sense because the questions that they were asking us on the form, they were like, they were literally, it was repeating the same question, which was, did you have an allergic reaction? And if you did, do you know what caused the allergic reaction in the COVID vaccine? And if you don't, then how are we supposed to know? Like that was the question every single
Yeah.
time. So
Yeah.
it would be best to tell them, but they probably wouldn't even know either because they're
Yeah.
asking you what you think it was and they have no clue.
And if
So
you're someone who has like life-threatening allergies, then that's one thing. Do you have a nut allergy?
Yeah.
I have a friend who has a nut allergy, a dairy allergy. Like she's like a bubble girl. She's allergic to everything. On top of being allergic things, she has intolerances for other things. Like eating with her is genuinely like such a nightmare. But she, because of something she's allergic to, she has to get Moderna. She cannot get Pfizer, or maybe the other way around. But there's something she's allergic to. But if you're somebody who has life-threatening allergies, you usually know enough about what you're allergic to kind of look into it and see, you know, if you're in any kind of danger, or you'll have an allergist who will let you know.
My only life-threatening allergy.
Tree nuts.
It's not even peanuts. It's peanuts that will do.
Yes, they are.
It's just tree nuts.
This girl, she's always been allergic to peanuts and tree nuts and all kinds of nuts. And when she was a kid, this awful girl at her elementary school would throw peanut butter sandwiches at her face. Isn't that awful? She could die. Death by peanut butter sandwich. And one
That's
time
like-
she was at a sleepover and the girls like started to put peanut butter on her. And then
Oh my
like one
God.
girl, like one nice girl who she's still friends with was like, absolutely not. Like I'm waking up your mom. Like you're trying to kill Sally. So
No, like I can understand the peanut butter sandwich thing. That's kind of funny.
it is kind of
yeah,
funny.
that peanut butter sandwich. That would be such a terrible way to go out. Like somebody's
Oh my
throwing a
God.
peanut butter sandwich at you.
And
Oh
then you
my
just
goodness.
like
That
He
is
just,
so
like, closes
embarrassing.
up.
I feel so bad for her.
actually.
That's so terrible. Why are people so mean?
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's the worst. I don't know. I don't know if she gets hives or what it is. She has so many different things. She told me she had an intolerance to tomatoes, and I was like, well, what does that mean? What does it do? And she was like, literally, it makes like tiny lacerations in my bladder. I was like, that's messed up. I didn't know tomatoes could do that. It's pretty bad.
Wouldn't the acidity from the tomato do that?
I don't know. I guess.
Take the seeds out.
I don't
That's
know. I don't know
weird.
what the deal is. I don't pretend to know all of her weird food things. Everything she posts is like hashtag NF nut free, GF gluten free, DF dairy free. I'm like, all your
So what is she eating? Like, that's the real question. What is she eating?
like fake food. She eats like fake food. Like she's
Is
not
she-
vegan, but she eats a lot of vegan stuff.
Is she allergic to tofu?
I don't think so. She does have issues with beef.
Okay.
She got beef with beef. Yeah.
She allergic to soy?
I don't think so.
Oh my goodness,
I'm
poor
not
girl.
sure. She'll always, like, if we're out at a restaurant, Charleston is actually really good for it. She used to live in Charleston. She doesn't anymore, but like Charleston is really good for people with food allergies because people at restaurants just kind of expect it, and so they know, and they'll like draw on her menu and be like, this has this,
English.
this has
Miss
this,
McClellan.
this. Yes.
Remember the time I went to school, I ate those vegan muffins?
I don't remember that. I remember when you got that big old bag of bread.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I remember when you got a giant loaf of bread from a woman at the museum, but
Yeah,
that's
you were just like, some white lady gave it to me. Like it took a while to like draw it out of you, even like who this white lady was.
yeah,
thought
because
you were
we
just
were
like-
all confused. I had never, and sometimes when I come in early, there would be like one white woman, but there's like only one, and you were like, no, that's not her. So I was like, who is it?
Oh yeah, and I think you're like, her name's like
Oh, my mom gotta
Teresa
say
or
something about
Roberta or
this.
something. And then once we found out who it was, I was like, her name is Morgan. I don't know why.
Oh, sorry, I messed up her name.
That's okay.
I am
just don't know where you
sitting
got
here
that.
as a parent watching this. I'm like, did you just say white lady? It's so funny to me. Vegan, I don't understand that because it's like, I'm gonna be a vegan, but I'm gonna eat a chicken nugget that's that it makes no sense to me. But I'm
I
just
agree.
watching over LeBron.
Okay.
All right.
No, totally fine. We
Yeah,
should get
I ate those
started
vegan
reading
mu-
though,
I
guys.
ate those vegan muffins. They ain't so bad.
Vegan muffins are busting. It's very
I
good.
don't remember that. Where'd you get them?
There's a woman named Stephanie. She's a good friend of mine. She gave me.
Oh, okay. So you brought them. I remember you bringing in all that bread and saying, does anybody have any jam or water?
Because that bread was dry.
It was like a gigantic bag of bread rolls.
Wasn't it like whole grain bread as well? Like it was something like it wasn't white bread either. It was
She was like the security guard at the Gibbs Museum, which was where our class was last year. She's very nice. Okay, we should
Yeah,
start
my
reading.
food.
This chapter is quite important. It's sort of in two sections a little bit. The first section, we actually learn about Gatsby's real past, what the truth is about him, or at least most of it. And then the second part kind of brings all of our characters together, which of course is probably pretty detrimental since Tom's married to Daisy and Gatsby is in love with Daisy, and Nick helped set them up, sort of. It's a big fiasco, more or less. Nick might be in love with Gatsby. He sure is entranced with his smile, that's for sure. Oh my goodness, bless you. Anybody want to read?
can I?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. About this time, an ambitious young reporter from New York arrived one morning at Gatsby's door and asked him if he had anything to say. Anything to say about what? Inquired Gatsby politely. Why, any statement to give out. It transpired after a confused 5 minutes that the man had heard Gatsby's name around his office in a connection which he either wouldn't reveal or didn't fully understand. This was his day off and with laudable initiative he had hurried out to see. It was a random shot, and yet the reporter's instinct was right. Gatsby's notoriety spread about by the hundreds who had accepted his hospitality and so become authorities on his past had increased all summer until he fell just short of being news. Contemporary legends such as the underground pipeline to Canada attached themselves to him, and there was one persistent story that he didn't live in a house at all, but in a boat that looked like a house and was a house and was, hold on. There was one persistent story that he didn't live in a house at all, but in a boat that looked like a house and was moved secretly up and down the Long Island shore. Just why these inventions were a source of satisfaction to James Gatz of North Dakota isn't easy to say. James Gatz, that was really, or at least legally, his name. He had changed it at the age of 17 and at the specific moment that witnessed the beginning of his career when he saw Dan Cody's yacht drop anchor over the most insidious flat on Lake Superior. It was James Gatz who had been loafing along the beach that afternoon in a torn green jersey and a pair of canvas pants, but it was RDJ Gatsby who borrowed a rowboat, pulled out to the Tuolumne and informed Cody that a wind might catch him and break him up in half an hour. I suppose he'd had the name ready for a long time. Even then, his parents were shiftless and unsuccessful farm people. His imagination had never really accepted them as his parents at all. The truth was that Jay Gatsby of West Egg, Long Island, sprang from his platonic conception of himself. He was a son of God, a phrase which, if it means anything, means just that, and he must be about his father's business, the service of a vast, vulgar, and meretricious. What does that mean?
I forget. I'll look it up.
Okay. Meretricious beauty. So he invented just the sort of Jay Gatsby that a 17-year-old boy would be likely to invent. And to this conception, he was faithful to the end. For over a year,
But let's just pause for just a second because we're learning a lot about him. First of all, meretricious is a great word for him because it means flashy or pretty on the outside, but pretty much empty and vacant on the inside. That's a good word. I like that word.
Nice
so like
word.
Gatsby's whole identity is made up. That's not even his real name. His name is James Gatz. And when he was 17, he just kind of saw this opportunity to reinvent himself, created a whole new name. And it even says that like he probably had been thinking on this for a long time just because of like the way his imagination worked. His parents were like farm workers and he just never saw that as being like the kind of life for him. He had bigger aspirations than that. And so he's just kind of like, who do I want to be? Let's create this character and make myself into this new person, whoever it is that I want to be. Which like there's something to be said for reinventing yourself, but it calls into question sort of like how much of the other stuff he said was true. And we'll find out some of it, but you can keep going for now.
Well,
Before we start, CC, go first.
Okay.
I know she was gonna read, but
Oh no, I was gonna say a comment.
okay, go
Really
ahead.
quickly. It sounds like the farming part is true. Like he didn't lie about that coming from, what is it, South Dakota? It didn't sound like that part was a lie. So,
Although he did say that his family was from San Francisco, and that's not true. They're from North Dakota.
oh, he did, didn't he? I thought he said that he was he like came from a farming family.
He said maybe he did, which calls into question what sort of farms they might have in San Francisco.
That's
not
true.
that I think they don't have any, but it's more likely for them to be farmers in North Dakota for sure.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, LeBron. Sorry.
Well, the whole reinventing yourself, I can see people have been doing that a lot. Like nothing wrong with it, but I've seen people do that.
Yeah, for sure. And especially like back then, I can't remember what year social security numbers started being a thing, but it was like the early part of the
Oh, I know this.
ID
I know
numbers.
this. Actually, I know that answer
Go ahead.
because it was in my government class. Hold on. Did social security become a thing?
Uh-huh.
I know this. It was like it was 1935.
Okay, so this is 1922. This is before Social Security is a thing. And with Social Security numbers, the government tracks us so much more. Like before Social Security numbers, the government couldn't really track us. Like all we had was our names, more or less. It's so much easier to keep tabs on people now. And so like if you wanted to reinvent yourself, it's not like there's this huge trail. You're not like on a registry with the government. You go into a new town and say, my name's Jay Gatsby, and people are like, hey, Jay Gatsby, nice to meet you. Nobody asks to see identification. So it was a lot easier back then to totally start a new life, for sure. Shall we keep going?
Yes. Uh, uh, yeah. For over a year, he had been beating his way along the south shore of Lake Superior as a clam digger and a salmon fisher, or in any other capacity that brought him food and bed. His brown heartening body lived naturally through the half fierce, half lazy work of the bracing days. Oh, so he's brown.
He's tan because he's been like outside working on a fishing boat. And it says hard, and like he's getting muscles. He's like getting more fit from this
So
work.
you're telling me that he's not a brown boy. He's just
Yeah, probably so.
Tan man.
a rip. Okay.
Yeah.
He knew women early, and since they spoiled him, he became contemptuous of them. Oh, of young virgins because they were ignorant of the others, because they are hysterical about things which in his overwhelming self-absorption he took for granted. But his heart was in a constant turbulent riot. The most grotesque and fantastic conceits haunted him in his bed at night. A universe of ineffable gaudiness. That's correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Ineffable
Like flashiness.
ineffable gaudiness spun out in his brain while the clock ticked on the washstand and the moon soaked with wet light his tangled clothes upon the floor. Each night he had to the pattern of his fancies until drowsiness closed down upon some vivid scene with an oblivious embrace. For a while, these
Reveries.
reveries provided an outlet for his imagination. They were a satisfactory hint of the unreality of reality, a promise that the rock of the world was founded securely on a fairy's wing. An instinct towards his future glory had led him some months before to the small Lutheran College of St. Olaf in southern Minnesota. Huh? He went to college. Okay.
Not Oxford, is it? Also, anybody here watch Golden Girls?
Yeah.
That's where Rose is from, St. Olaf. She's always talking about it.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, Minnesota. That's so lame. Okay. He stayed there 2 weeks, dismayed at its ferocious indifference to the drums of his destiny, to destiny itself, and despising the janitor's work with which he was to pay his way through. Then he drifted back to Lake Superior, and he was still searching for something to do on the day that Dan Cody's yacht dropped anchor in the shallows longshore. So he went to college for 2 weeks in southern Minnesota.
And like worked as a janitor to pay his way through, but hated it, felt like it was beneath him, And I mean, I love that phrase, the ferocious indifference to the drums of his destiny. Like he was meant for greater things, and somehow this place does not fit in with it and doesn't respect it. So he needs to move on and like find whatever it is his destiny actually is.
I wonder how much that janitor job was actually paying him for
I
him
know,
to stay
right?
there for 2 weeks
2 weeks. I
at
know. Like,
Southern
give it a real chance.
Minnesota.
A lot of people
Ah!
want to leave college in the first 2 weeks that they're there.
Yeah. It's just, it really wasn't meant for him then.
Yeah.
Cody was 50 years old, then a product of the Nevada silver fields of the Yukon of every rush for metals since 75. Huh? Ma'am? I'm sorry.
1875. It would be
Oh.
like like the gold rush was a thing, like people coming out west
Yeah.
to find gold, or in this case, silver.
So, oh my gosh, I keep forgetting these years were like a real thing. Okay. The transactions in Montana copper that made him many times a millionaire found him physically robust, but on the verge of soft-mindedness, and suspecting this, an infinite number of women tried to separate him from his money. Oof. The none too savory ramifications by which Ella Kay, the newspaper woman, played Madame de Maintenon.
Sure.
Cool. To his weakness and sent him to sea in a yacht were common knowledge to the turgid journalism of 1902. He had been coasting along all too hospitable shores for 5 years when he turned up as James Gatt's destiny at Little Girl Bay. What kind of name? Okay.
Little Girl Bay.
Little Girl Bay. To the young Gatts resting on his oars and looking up at the railed deck that represented all the beauty and glamour in the world, I suppose he smiled at Cody. He had probably discovered that people liked him when he smiled. At any rate, Cody asked him a few questions. One of them elicited the brand new name and found that, and found that he was quick and extravagantly ambitious. A few days later, he took him to Duluth and brought him a blue coat, 6 pair of white duck trousers, and a yachting cap. And when the Tuolumne left for the West Indies and the Barbary Coast, Gatsby left too. Oh, okay. So they're just saying when this left, the man known as Gatsby left. Okay.
Yeah, he went with it, and like Dan Cody kind of took him under his wing, and he was very rich because of the silver fields, and kind of took care of Gatsby, bought him all new clothes, and like when he first met and said, "What's your name?" James Gatts said, "My name is Jay Gatsby," and suddenly he was the new person.
Crazy. He was employed in a vague personal capacity. He was employed in a vague personal capacity while he remained with Cody. He was in turn steward, mate, skipper, secretary, and even jailer for Dan Cody sober. Knew what lavish doings Dan Cody drunk might soon be about, and he provided for such contingencies by reposing more and more trust in Gatsby. The arrangement lasted 5 years, during which the boat went 3 times around the continent. Oh, okay. It might have lasted indefinitely, except for the fact that Ella Kay came on board one night in Boston, and a week later, Dan Cody inhospitably died. Interesting.
Suspicious.
Is it suspicious, or did one of them actually just kill him? I don't know.
She was after his money.
She said, if I can't have it, nobody can. And that's when she struck. I remember the portrait of him up in Gatsby's bedroom, a gray floored man with a hard, empty face. The pioneer
Debauchee, drunk.
Debauchee. What does that mean?
Drunk.
Oh, okay. Who during one phase of American life brought back to the eastern seaboard the savage violence of the frontier brothel and saloon. It was indirectly due to Cody that, so he was just drunk. Okay, cool. That Gatsby drinks so little. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, like he saw how bad it
Sometimes,
was
I
for Dan
mean,
Cody and decided that he wouldn't go down that
yeah,
same
no,
path.
that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Actually, sometimes in the course of gay parties, women used to.
Like
Okay.
why?
It's so weird.
What's the
Okay,
point?
I guess.
A little champagne in there.
Oh, so conditioning. Women used to rub champagne into his hair for himself. He formed the habit of letting liquor. Why? Okay. And it was from Cody that he inherited money, a legacy of 25. Wow. $25,000. He didn't get it. He never understood the legal device that was used against him, but what remained of the millions went intact to LK. Oh, he was left with his singularly appropriate education. The vague contour of Jay Gatsby had filled out the
Substantiality.
substantiality of a man. He told me all of this very much later, but I've put it down here with the idea of exploding those wild rumors more about his antecedents, which weren't even faintly true. Moreover, he told me at a time of confusion when I had reached the point of believing everything and nothing about him. So I take advantage of this short halt while Gatsby, so to speak, caught his breath to clear this set of misconceptions away. It was a halt too, in my association with his affairs. For several weeks, I didn't see him or hear his voice on the phone. Mostly, I was in New York trotting around with Jordan and trying to ingratiate myself with her smiling aunt, with her senile aunt. That does not say smile, that's a senile. But finally, I went over to his house one Sunday afternoon. I hadn't been there 2 minutes when somebody brought Tom Buchanan in for a drink. Buchanan,
yeah.
Buchanan in for a drink. I was startled naturally, but the really surprising thing was that it hadn't happened before.
Okay, let's pause for just a second. So this is going to kind of start the second section of this. Everything before is learning about his background, and Nick even says, like, I'll tell you all this stuff about him, but like at this point, I've heard so many things about Gatsby that I believe everything, but I also don't believe anything. Like anything could be true of him. Just it all kind of adds to his mystery. So he shows up at his house after like not having spoken to him for a few weeks, which is interesting because I feel like if I were Nick, I'd be like, so what's happening with you and Daisy? Like, did y'all talk anymore? That was interesting. What's going on? He says that he just didn't talk to him for several weeks. But when he goes over, Tom is there, surprisingly, which is not a great like combination of people, considering that they're both, well, I don't know, is either of them really in love with Daisy? I was gonna say they're both in love with Daisy. I feel like Gatsby is more in love with Daisy. Tom is abusive and terrible. Oh man, I found all these Gatsby memes. I'll show them to you later. Maybe tomorrow. Let's keep going.
So like, okay, hold on, because Nick, okay, so I'm confused. When we started this, a reporter came to the door. So is this the reporter talking or is this Nick talking?
No, this is Nick. The reporter thing was just sort of like, he was like, I hadn't talked to him in a while, but like something was going on. Like he was getting Gatsby was getting a lot of recognition for like his parties and everything. And so some young journalist was like, oh, I'm going to get ahead of this scoop and like see who this guy is. And he came to Nick's door to ask basically for an interview. And Nick was like, yeah, here.
I thought they were asking Gatsby himself. Okay. So this is all just what Nick knows.
Yeah. This is all what Nick knows. And he said Gatsby told him the truth, presumably, of everything much later, but he just wanted to go ahead and throw it in there now.
Okay, well, alrighty.
Yeah.
Valid.
Thanks for the info.
There are a party of 3 on horseback. Tom and a man named Sloan and a pretty woman in brown riding in a brown riding habit. Is that the horse's name, Habit?
No, the habit is like riding clothes. I don't know if that's the pants or like the whole thing or what, but
Oh.
a habit is riding clothes.
Who had been there previously. I'm delighted to see you, said Gatsby, standing on his porch. I'm delighted that you dropped in, as though they cared. Sit right down, have a cigarette or a cigar. He walked around the room, quickly ringing bells. I'll have something to drink for you in just a minute. He was profoundly affected by the fact that Tom was there, but he would be uneasy anyhow until he had given them something, realizing in a vague way that was all they came for. Mr. Sloan wanted nothing. A lemonade? No thanks. A little champagne? Nothing at all. Thanks. I'm sorry. Did you have a nice ride? Very good roads around here. I suppose the automobiles, yeah. Moved by an irresistible impulse, Gatsby turned to Tom, who had accepted the introduction as a stranger. I believe we met somewhere before, Mr.
Buchanan.
Buchanan. I was about to say Buchanan again. Buchanan. Oh, yes, said Tom gruffly polite, but obviously not remembering. So we did. I remember very well. About 2 weeks ago. That's right. You were with Nick here. I know your wife, continued Gatsby almost almost aggressively. That so Tom turned to me. You live near here, Nick? Oh, okay.
Aggressive man.
I said, I know your wife.
Aggressively.
Rude. Next door. That's so. Mr. Sloan didn't enter the conversation, but lounged back haughtily in his
like snooty.
In his chair. The woman said nothing either until unexpectedly, after 2 highballs, she came cordial. Well, I'll come over to your next party, Mr. Gatsby, she suggested. What do you say? Certainly. I'd be delighted to have you. Be very nice, said Mr. Sloan without gratitude. Well, think ought to be starting home. Oh, this broken language. Please don't hurry, Gatsby urged them. He had control of himself now, and he wanted to see more of Tom. Why don't you stay for supper? I wouldn't be surprised if some other people dropped in from New York. You come to supper with me, said the lady enthusiastically. Both of you. This included me. Mr. Sloan got to his feet. Come along, he said, but to her only. I mean it, she insisted. I love to have you. Lots of fun. Gatsby looked at me questioningly. He wanted to go, and he didn't want to see that Mr. Sloan had determined he shouldn't. I'm afraid I won't be able to, I said. Will you come? She urged, concentrating on Gatsby. Mr. Sloan murmured something close to her ear. We won't be late if we start now, she insisted aloud. I haven't got a horse, said Gatsby. I used to ride in the army, but I never bought a horse. I'll follow you in my car. Excuse me for just a minute. So wait a minute. Was he in the military or not? Because that didn't sound like he was.
He did say that, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I used
but
to ride in the army, but I've never bought a horse.
Did
I mean,
Nick
it could just
say
be part
in
of his
his
lives.
Is he gonna know how to ride a horse though?
I don't know. I mean, he says I've never bought a horse.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's not wanting to ride.
So
Mm-hmm. I wonder if it's the
like
kind
you
of
said, he
thing
was
where.
an infantryman.
What did you say,
What?
James?
Like you said, he was an infantryman. He wasn't in the cavalry.
Yes, but he says that he used to ride, but I feel like it might be one of those things where, if you don't really have experience with something, you kind of lie and say you have a little, or like you did a long time ago, but wouldn't be able to do it now,
Yeah.
or that kind of thing. Yeah, of course I played soccer when I was 4. Yeah, like, oh, I used to be a dancer. I don't know if you guys knew that. I was a dancer. I took lessons as a kid.
I used to do tennis, but it was only one
I
time.
can't believe it.
Yeah. But did
It might be
Nick
that kind of thing.
Did Nick like specifically say that to the, did he tell the reporter that he was in the military? Did Gat, that's not my question. Did
No,
Gat,
he didn't really tell the reporter anything.
so is that true or not?
All the stuff that we just read?
No, the military.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, he
Alright.
didn't mention it in the like when he was telling sort of the true story of James Gatz. There wasn't anything involving the military in there.
Not at all.
But you know, when he first met Nick, he was like, "Don't I recognize you from like such and such a battalion?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, I was in that." And when he met Daisy, like according to Jordan, he was a young officer. So I think at some point he was in the military.
Not stuck out at sea, he wasn't.
No, I think it was after that. I'm trying to like figure out how old he was for everything and like how old he is now. But
Yeah,
I'm
how
not quite
old is
sure.
he? That's
Well,
a
he's-
great question.
He became Gatsby when he was 17, and then it said he
5
was
years on the
5 years to like with Dan Cody and whatever else.
which is
Um,
22.
That's 22. And we know it's been 5 years since he was engaged to Daisy, or not engaged, but since he and Daisy were a thing. So
So,
at least 27.
27,
28?
28.
Yeah, between 22, like, so, whatever, how old he is.
Yeah.
He went to the military.
I think he went to the military after Dan Cody, like after he left Dan Cody.
Yeah,
or
so
Dan Cody died and everything.
we could potentially add in like maybe a year or two of that.
Mm-hmm.
They talked about
Maybe 30.
Maybe 30.
Okay. I just
There's-
wanted to- I'm confused.
No, I'm gonna try to figure it out.
Well, I mean, U.S. was only in World War One for like 6 months, so that's not even a whole year.
That's true.
Not even
Um,
6 months.
It says that Jay Gatsby is 32,
Yeah,
according to Google.
according to Google. According to Google, of course, according
Oh
to
my God,
Google.
eligible.
Um,
My age frames.
Think about Leonardo DiCaprio, I just know it.
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Absolutely. I'm thinking about him.
excuse me for just a minute.
I
The
used-
rest of the rest of us walked out on the porch where Sloan and the lady began an impassioned conversation aside. My God, I believe the man's coming, said Tom. Doesn't he know? I don't know why I said that like that. Doesn't he know she doesn't want him? She says she does want him. She has a big dinner party and he won't know a soul there. He frowned. I wonder where in the devil he met Daisy. By God, I may be old fashioned in my ideas, but women run around too much these days to suit me. They meet all kinds of crazy fish. Oh, what a terrible thing. You shut up. Okay. Suddenly, suddenly, Mr. Sloan and the lady walked down the steps and mounted on their horses. Come on, said Mr. Sloan to Tom. We're late. We've got to go. And then to me, tell him we couldn't wait, will you? Tom and I shook hands. The rest of us exchanged a cool nod, and they trotted quickly down the drive, disappearing under the August foliage just as Gatsby with hat and light overcoat in hand came out the front door. Tom was evidently perturbed at Daisy's running around alone, for on the following Saturday night, he came with her to Gatsby's party. Perhaps his presence gave the evening a peculiar quality of oppressiveness. It stands out in memory from Gatsby's other parties that summer. There were the same people, or at least the same sort of people, the same profusion of champagne, the same many-colored, many-keyed commotion, but I felt unpleasantness in the air and pervading harshness that hadn't been there before.
I guess this is probably a good place to stop because we have like 2 minutes till the bell rings, since it's ringing 2 minutes early these days. But this next part of the chapter is kind of setting up this party, and I think the rest of the chapter is at the party where, like, for the first time, Daisy's there, and Tom is there, and Nick is there, and Gatsby's there. I think Jordan Baker might also be there. I don't remember. She is not there. No. Tom's side piece, Myrtle. She's not there. It would be interesting. We will see more of her for sure though. But it's definitely like kind of awkward and uncomfortable. And Tom already like not knowing that Gatsby and Daisy have ever had any kind of thing together is like kind of hostile towards Gatsby. Like he's not a nice guy to start with, but you know, this woman, whoever this other woman is, invites them all out to dinner. And he's like, I can't believe Gatsby's coming. Like nobody wants him there. He's not going to know anybody. And Nick's just like, well, he was invited. Like, I think it's fine. And like, to be fair, Gatsby is trying to like spend more time around Tom just to sort of like figure him out and like see what his whole deal is. So he's
So
trying
you can
to
make moves
like,
on Daisy.
like, are they happy? No. Yeah, like I would. Daisy at some point thought they were, but clearly not now. And he is a jerk. If y'all remember, he like hurt her little finger. He's
Her
Myrtle was
finger.
the
What did
only
he
one.
do? I don't remember that.
Yeah, her finger was like black and blue, and she was like, "You did this, Tom, because you're a great hulking brute." That was a thing.
Fucking brute.
I know.
But it's because you're a big bulky man.
Because you're a big strong man. We'll I posted the audio for chat for the rest of chapter 6 or for all of chapter 6. The whole thing's only like not even 25 minutes. I think we just go a little slower because we talk through it, but it's a link to YouTube. It's not me reading, it's a professional. So
Oh, you're not gonna spend the hour reading this.
I probably not. Not if
Okay.
somebody else already has. I wish I'd looked before. I mean, I like reading out loud, but I probably wouldn't have recorded those videos if I'd known someone else had already done it. So
Was it a person named Yuan or something like that?
I don't know.
Because I saw that one.
Do I still have it open? I don't have it open anymore. I don't know.
Well, I saw that one, and that one like was 53 minutes long. So
It's probably that.
yeah. Okay. Bye-bye.
Yeah.